Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the 3 Topics Gamer here to give you another one of my worst best tier list ranking style videos. Now, this is kind of a semi-response to an older video that I did not too long ago in which I did a ranking of Batman villains, but a subscriber of mine actually asked me to start doing a tier list style ranking for Spider-Man villains. Now, believe it or not, I couldn't find any really good tier list videos that kind of focus on purely all of Spider-Man's villains from the comic books, but I was able to find one tier list video going over the villains from the Spider-Man movies that have come up to this point. So I figured that that'll just have to do, because there have been a good amount of villains that have all been from really good to really, really awful. So I thought ranking them, especially on the eve or before the next film comes out, which I would just like to state right now that I'm officially stating right now, I have no plans on seeing the next Spider-Man movie. I'm skipping that one, and I think it'll be a long time before I see another Spider-Man movie in theaters. So we're just going to focus on the movies that have been released, going from the first Sam Raimi film up into the most recent ones. So before I start doing my rankings, if you do happen to enjoy this video by the end, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep track of me on my future videos. And if you have any ideas you think would work for future projects in the future, make sure you share your ideas with me and everyone else in the comments down below. So as we look over here, I actually kind of like how this particular ranking list is kind of ranked. So as you can see, starting from the top, you've got S tier for elite, to great, to good, to okay, to man, to awful, and I don't remember. Now, I'm just going to get the ones that I don't remember out of the way first, because I'm pretty sure I know where they're from, but just from the image, I can't exactly tell who they are. So the only three that I don't remember would be this guy, and this guy. Now, just from the images, it looks like they're definitely from Enter the Spider-Verse. And I feel bad that I don't remember them, because that's an awesome film. I can't wait for the sequel to come out. But I remember that film more for other aspects outside of the villains. I mean, it had some good villains, but it had a number of villains that just kind of went over my head. So if you could tell me who those characters are, or maybe I can just go back and rewatch the Spider-Verse again, then I can remember. But just as of right now, at the time of this video's recording, I don't know who they are. So we're going to start from the top working down. So as far as I'm concerned, there's only one S-tier elite villain that has been from the films, and that is going to be Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2. He is easily, I would easily put him as one of the top 10 best villains I've seen in a live-action comic book film in general. Maybe even top 5. Spider-Man 2, even to this day, remains my favorite Spider-Man film of all time. It's a top 5 favorite superhero comic book film of all time to this day. And I just think that his portrayal was very, very on point. Dr. Octavius starts as like a good man who just wants to create fusion energy so that people have unlimited energy. It goes horribly wrong, and he gets the metal arms, infused into his back, and he feels that he needs to do terrible things in order to complete his work. And what I like about this portrayal is that he is not entirely evil for the sake of being evil. He has some good intentions, but I just think he's blinded by the danger. And what I like by the end, this will have spoilers if you haven't seen it, what's wrong with you, is at the end when Peter kind of throws his own knowledge back at him, and he ends up sacrificing himself. And I have a good feeling that even though I'm not going to go see the next Spider-Man film, I'm pretty sure he's going to be one of the best aspects of that upcoming film, even though I don't plan on seeing it. But I just think that his portrayal of the character was on point. Definitely one of the best portrayals of Dr. Octopus that I've ever seen, between even live action, the comic books, and even the cartoon series. So in my opinion, he's the only S-tier Spider-Man villain we've ever had in the films, and it's been that way for quite a long time, so that's where I would put him. Going into great, I think I would put Norman Osborn from the first Spider-Man film. I thought Willem Dafoe's performance as Green Goblin was really good, both when he was just as Norman and then when he was acting as the Goblin, how he was talking to himself. I thought that split personality aspect was brilliantly handled in that first Spider-Man film. Who else was also great? I also thought that the Kingpin from the Spider-Verse was really, really good. Just like Dr. Octopus, he too is not so much evil for the sake of being evil. He has a purpose for what he's doing, and in that case, he wants to kind of break these dimensions so he can save his family, not realizing that it could possibly just ruin all realities. But he doesn't care about that. And he is successful in killing a version of Spider-Man, Peter Parker. So that, that definitely puts him, in a class by himself, but for being able to actually kill Spider-Man, or a version of Spider-Man that we come to know. So I believe that's the only ones I would put in the great tier. As we go into good, I thought Michael Keaton's portrayal as Vulture was actually pretty interesting. He's a character who, like, the Kingpin, the Dr. Octopus, doesn't really seem like an overall bad guy, but I think that he goes a little bit more into the villainous side, which kind of makes him a bad person at the end, even though he starts out being, like, feeling like he has to do this in order to support his family, but, he does tend to cross the line a little bit. And even though I didn't like that film, I would say he was probably the only thing in that film I actually thought was really good handled, and that's why I would put him in the good tier. I would also put him. I don't want to spoil too much, so I'll just say that his connection to Miles is another character who's not entirely evil. And that's the interesting thing about great villains, at least for Spider-Man as opposed to Batman. I think when it comes to Batman, his villains are generally evil, but when it comes to Spider-Man, they kind of start out as like good people that have good intentions. They just so happen to go down a bad path that caused him to make a lot of really terrible decisions. And his Miles' uncle, which I'm not going to reveal who he was playing, is a clear example of that. I also really did like the this portrayal of Dr. Octopus from Into the Spider-Verse. I did not see that coming when I first saw that film, and every time she showed up, it was pretty effective. How well she handled herself, especially in the action set pieces. As we go into the okay tier, let's put Goblin Jr. I mean, Harry as the Goblin, Spider-Man 3, I will say he did have a really good opening action set piece, which I believe that was like the first one in Spider-Man 3. But he kind of does team up with Peter in the end and then ends up dying pretty much the same way as his father. I thought that was kind of poetic, how both he and his father get killed by getting stabbed by their own glider, the blades on their glider. I thought that was kind of poetic, how they went out the same way. But I don't know, when he was coming after Peter in that alley, it was pretty effective. However, when he got knocked off his board was pretty hilarious. So that's why he goes down a little bit, but not bad. I mean, there's been worse portrayals, but I would just put him in okay. Who else would guy put in okay? I would put Sandman. I'm really confused as to why Sandman is in the next supposed Spider-Man film, because he doesn't get killed, and Sandman wasn't really a bad guy. I mean, he got turned into Sandman accidentally, and all he wants is to steal money so he can pay to help his daughter get better. I mean, that's his motivation. And he only kind of teams up with Venom because he thinks that Spider-Man went too far and tried to kill him, and as long as Spider-Man's out there, he's not going to let him do that. So, again, I mean, that's why I would just put him in okay, but yeah. I think that's the only one I would put in okay. I think the rest of these are pretty bad to just being meh. So, who's a meh? Venom, Spider-Man 3, it was a meh. Showed up at the end. Kind of went out like a punk. This was not a great portrayal of Venom. I mean, we with the Tom Hardy Venom, that's the real Venom. This portrayal was not that great. Had a few key moments. I liked how Peter Parker took him out. I thought that was awesome, but just the portrayal of Venom, I didn't think worked too well for me. Same thing, I think, goes with, Electro. Had a few cool scenes, but overall it was corny. That whole movie was corny. There was a whole bunch of problems with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but yeah, Electro was just not very good. I'm sure they'll try to do more with them in the next Spider-Man movie, but in Amazing Spider-Man 2 just didn't work too well. Lizard wasn't really any better in the first Amazing Spider-Man film. It was kind of laughable. The CGI did not look very good on the lizard, so that's where I would put him. Shocker, that was weird. The Shocker. Oh dear, the Shocker was like two different guys, and both of them were just kind of laughable. Uh, I'm gonna put Mysterio in meh, just because I didn't see that movie, but just from what I saw, I wouldn't have enjoyed it. I would have thought whatever. But oh yeah, these last two, oh my god, wow, Harry as Goblin and the Rhino, oh my lord, they were awful. Oh damn, and it was at the end, so that made it even worse. I mean, even if you've got like a heavily flawed film, you never want to have that be your ending, because that's the last thing I'm gonna remember. And yeah, I mean, Harry's whole plan that he wants to get Spider-Man's blood so he can try to get the cure for the disease that was passed down to him from Norman, and he like takes this like green goo and just injects himself, not really knowing what was gonna happen, and then he just, the look of it was just ridiculous. And the Rhino, Paul Giamatti, what were you thinking? I mean, it was bad enough for him at the beginning of the film because he was just a joke, but what the heck? Where did that suit come from? And that's the last shot of the film. Like, what were they thinking? No, trust me, Amazing Spider-Man 2, lot of problems. Lot of problems. But the villains did not help. They made the film even worse. But yeah, God, they were just awful. And that'll about do it for my ranking of all the live action Spider-Man villains, or the villains that have been in all the Spider-Man films that have been released up to this point. So if you had to rate these guys, how would you rate them? Share your ranking with me and everyone else in the comments down below. And like always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Woo! Man, those villains.